for today, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya from 2009 to 2021, Mrs. Sandamali Avirupola, Madam Principal, Mrs. Manomi Senaviratna, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. M.N. Edusuriya, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. R.M.L. Jayasekara, eminent old girl, former deputy principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, president of Visakha Centenary Celebrations Committee, Mrs. Sita Sirivardhana, and all other distinguished guests led by the primary Western band of Visakha Vidyalaya. We now witness the ribbon cutting ceremony, which will commemorate the opening of the newly constructed building.
මීට සමගාමීව හෙළ කුලසිරිතට මුල් තැන දෙමින් විවෘත කරන ලද නව ගොඩනැගිල්ලේදී කිරි ඉතිරවීම 3-4 ශ්‍රේණිවල අපේ ආදරණීය ගුරු මෑණිවරුන් අතින් සිදු කෙරෙනවා ඇති.
Now, the youngest members of the 11th Colombo Girl Guides Association will now give a grand flutter to welcome you all to the newly opened building.
මෝහාන්ධකාරයේ තිමිර පටල බිඳ දමමින් චිරාගත සම්ප්‍රදායනුකූලව පොල් තෙල් පහන්සිලු දල්වාලන්නටයි අපේ මේ සූදානම.
In accordance with tradition, it is now time to light the oil lamp. I cordially invite our chief guest, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya from 2009 to 2021, Mrs. Sandamali Avirupola, Principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. Manomi Senaviratna, former Principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. M.N. Edusuriya, former Principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. R.M.L. Jayasekara, eminent old girl, former Deputy Principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, President of Visakha Centenary Celebrations Committee, Mrs. Sita Sirivardhana, Assistant Principal representing the primary section, Mrs. Chandani Ratnayaka, Project Chairperson of Visakha Centenary Primary Building Committee, Mrs. Priyangani Ratnasekara, Project Secretary, Visakha Centenary Primary Building Committee, Mrs. Arosha Hemali, Project Treasurer, Visakha Centenary Primary Building Committee, Mrs. Ruvini Kirivandala, Mrs. Avanti Vikramasinghe, who served as an engineer in the Centenary Primary Building Committee, Ms. Kumudini Jayawardena, consultant structural engineer and project manager, Mrs. Shanta Gunaratna and Mrs. Renuka Dharmadasa, advisors of the Centenary Primary Building Committee, Mr. Ranjan Kumara, Chief Operational Engineer from the Central Engineering Services Limited, Mrs. Shamini De Almeida and Mrs. Punsirini Malavi, Vice Presidents of the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association, Mrs. Visakha Samaravira and Mrs. Sarangi Pereira, Joint Secretaries of the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association. To commemorate this momentous occasion, we will now witness the unveiling of the plaque. I cordially invite the chief guest, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. Sandamali Aviruppala, and Madam Principal, Mrs. Manomi Senaviratna, to unveil the plaque. Balloons will now be released into the air to commemorate this beautiful occasion. A warm welcome to all of you. The prize of success can merely go unnoticed, but hard work, dedication, and determination to the job at hand truly deserves to be celebrated. With this thought in mind, we are honored to be present here today to witness the opening of the centenary primary building of Visakha Vidyalaya. It is with great respect that we acknowledge all the eminent guests that have graced us with their presence for this monumental event. We would like to extend our gratitude to the esteemed chief guest, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. Sandamali Aviruppala, for gracing this momentous occasion. The Centenary Primary Building is a gift from the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association in commemoration of the school's centenary year celebrated in 2017. The building provides a safe space for the young students and assists them in furthering their education. The multi-million rupee cost for a project of this caliber was a challenge that loomed large from the very outset. But Visakhians across the globe rallied around the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association to support the raising of funds, which all started in May 2014. During 2017, the centenary year of Visakha Vidyalaya, a series of memorable events and projects were organized exclusively to raise funds for the centenary primary building. The generosity of the individual donors was also a colossal strength. Remarkably, the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association could raise over 100 million rupees, upholding its core values of transparency and accountability. However, raising proficient funds appeared to be less grueling than the other obstacles the Old Girls Association would have to overcome. Nevertheless, the sheer dedication of the Old Girls Association was tangible and ultimately provided a building that will be home for the primary students of Visakha Vidyalaya.
අද දින අභිනවයෙන් විවෘතවනු මේ ගොඩනැගිල්ල විසාඛාවන් වන අප සියලු දෙනාගේම සැබෑ වූ සිහිනයක්. අප විද්‍යාලයේ ප්‍රාථමික අංශයේ පන්ති කාමර පාසල් පරිශ්‍රයේ පුරාම විසිරී තිබීම අප සියලු දෙනාම ප්‍රායෝගිකව මුහුණ දුන්නු ගැටලුවක්. ඉතින් ඒ ගැටලුව නිමා කරමින් 2017 වසරේ සමරනු ලැබූ විසාඛා විද්‍යාලයේ සියවස සැමරීම නිමිත්තෙන් මේ අභිනව ගොඩනැගිල්ල අද විසාඛාවන්ට තිලින කරන්නට අපේ විසාඛා විද්‍යාලයේ ආදි ශිෂ්‍ය සංගමය සූදානම්.
To pay respect to our alma mater, please rise for the school song. To warmly welcome our distinguished guests for today's occasion, I cordially invite Madam Principal Mrs. Manomi Senaviratna to deliver the welcome speech.
A very good morning to all of you gathered here today. We are blessed with a nice bright day for our auspicious activity. Today, a little while ago, we performed a very special activity, the opening and handing over the Visakha Centenary Primary Building to the school by our chief guest, Mrs. Sandamali Aviruppala. It is my very present duty to welcome our chief guest, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. Sandamali Aviruppala, who retired last year after serving the school as principal for nearly 13 years. Her contribution to the progress and development of the school, maintaining high standards during this time, is greatly appreciated. Mrs. Aviruppala had the good fortune to preside over the centenary celebration of Visakha Vidyalaya in 2017. And today we witness the culmination of those celebrations, the opening of the Visakha Centenary primary building, a generous donation by the all girls of Visakha Vidyalaya. I thank for accepting our invitation to be the chief guest today. Our former principals, Mrs. Mercy Nalini Edisurya, who served Visakha for 12 years and who has always been very supportive of the school, and Mrs. Leela Jayasekara. A warm welcome to you both. Mrs. Sita Sirivardhana, student, teacher, deputy principal, and a pillar of the OGA. I deeply appreciate your contribution to the growth of Visakha Vidyalaya over the years and even now. I am very happy to see you here. Welcome. I warmly welcome the Executive Committee and members of the Visakha Vidyalaya All Girls Association, the members of the Primary Building Committee headed by Mrs. Priyangani Ratnasekara and our generous donors. I might call them the movers of mountains. Without them, this project may not have happened. I welcome the past and present deputy principals and past and present sectional heads, teachers, members of the School Development Society, non-academic staff, and our distinguished guest today. A very special welcome to the young Visakhians waiting anxiously here to move into their new classrooms. Today is a great day for all Visakhians, young and old. I am sure our past students will recall many nostalgic memories of their own school's days. And the young Visakhians today, will have a very special memory of their new primary classrooms, very different to the ones they have experienced before. It has taken 8 long years to complete this project, which was undertaken in 2014 as a centenary celebration gift to Visakha Vidyalaya by the Visakha Vidyalaya All Girls Association. The building before you is a testimony of their present and perseverance, transparency, and accountability, a hallmark of the PVOGA, which I deeply appreciate and admire. I congratulate you for this achievement. Our school needs more space for teaching and learning activities. It also needs order and efficiency for good administration and management. This gift from the VVOGA is very timely as we need classroom space urgently. I thank the former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. Sandamali Aviruppala, for initiating this project and the VVOGA for executing it so well. Dear children, I hope you will enjoy studying in your new classrooms and you will use it carefully. I was not there to witness the glory of your centenary celebration in 2017, but now, 5 years later, having been appointed to this prestigious girls' school as a 17th principal, I too find myself captivated by that spells, the spirit of Visakha. where many things are made possible. May you go from strength to strength and continue your missions to support our alma mater in the years to come. I thank you, Visakha Vidyalaya All Girls Association, for this very generous gift, the Visakha Centenary Primary Building. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Now, we will witness a video clip that reflects on the history of the Visakha Centenary Primary Building.
Visakha, the story of one woman's altruism to sacrifice her priceless jewel to build a magnificent monastery for Buddhist monks, is one that continues to inspire Buddhist women across millennia. Perhaps this was the inspiration to Mrs. Jeremias Dias, the philanthropist from Panadura, who in 1917 donated her wealth to establish an educational institution for Buddhist girls. This institution went on to become the singular name for the educational excellence of women in Sri Lanka, Visakha. In 2014, with the school's centenary celebration 3 years ahead, the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association was exploring the possibility of marking this historical milestone with an unparalleled gift that would not only stand the test of time, but also pay homage to these two remarkable women who define Visakha. The principal of Visakha Vidyalaya at the time, Mrs. Sandamali Aviruppala, emphasized the challenges faced by the teachers and the primary students due to having the primary classrooms scattered all over the school premises. Responding to the need, the VVOGA pledged to build a suite of state-of-the-art classrooms for grades 3 and 4. Thus, the Centenary Primary Building Project was born.
During 13-year-long tenure at Visakha, I strive to improve the learning process of the Visakhians in two ways. While my focus was primarily direct academic interventions on teaching, assessment and evaluation, I also tried to facilitate the learning by improving the infrastructure and environment. It was brought to my notice that the primary classes being scattered in the school premises had a direct impact on the classroom teaching learning process of the primary section, as well as the administration of the school. When this was mentioned at an OGA meeting, they quickly responded.
The multi-million rupee cost for a project of this caliber was a challenge that loomed large from the very outset. But there is one magical spell that unites Visakhians across eras and oceans: their unwavering love for their beloved school. This is the solid foundation upon which the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association stands tall, not only as a stalwart of support, but a sentinel safeguarding their beloved school. Visakhians, with their inherent enthusiasm, rallied round the VVOGA to support the raising of funds. In May 2014, the funds raised through the concert Kishani Sings for Visakha, featuring the world-renowned Visakhian soprano Kishani Jayasinghe, formed the nucleus of what was to later become the Centenary Primary Building Fund. During 2017, the centenary year, the Visakhians came together to organize a string of memorable events and projects exclusively to raise funds for the Centenary Primary Building. The Centenary Walk, the Centenary Carnival, and the Centenary Publication were some of the memorable milestones in this journey. The generosity of the individual donors was also a colossal strength. Remarkably, the VBOGA could raise over 100 million rupees, upholding its core values of transparency and accountability. However, raising the funds proved to be a less formidable challenge. The journey ahead through the next few years was one full of challenges.
Today we are very happy to hand over Visakha Centenary Primary Building to the school after much dedication of the Primary School Building Committee. The building process was delayed by 2 years upon the request of the principal due to the construction of Geetanjali Amrasurya Memorial Library building, which was just next to our building site. Thereafter, we faced new challenges of 2019 Easter bomb attack, and then from March 2020 the COVID-19 epidemic. So these matters actually prolonged the commencement of construction of this building. But due to the sheer dedication of this Centenary Primary Building School Committee, very strongly we all got together and we rolled through the difficult adversities, and finally we are now ready to hand over this beautiful building.
But proving the indomitable spirit of the Visakhians, the building committee prevailed through every obstacle, rising from every setback stronger, like a phoenix from its ashes. Finally, the construction commenced in 2020, marking the end of a long, strenuous journey from the drawing board to reality. The building, which was designed with an aesthetic sense that reflects strongly upon the proud history and traditions of Visakha Vidyalaya, was finally coming to life. The aesthetically appealing exterior is just the cherry on the cake. The state-of-the-art classrooms have been designed with much diligence, strictly adhering to government regulations and guidelines, from safety standards to prescribed shades. And thus, a dream slowly evolved into reality.
The Visakha Vidyalaya All Girls Association is a driving force behind the triumph of the school. Its members never hesitate to support any endeavor to improve and maintain the standards of the school. I appreciate their effort to raise funds and construct the Visakha Centenary Primary Building with all the modern facilities. Considering the many hardships the country had to face during the past few years, I thank the Visakha Vidyalaya OGA for their generosity and support offered whenever the school needs it. I shall ensure that this building will be well maintained and utilized to benefit the primary section of our school.
The Centenary Primary Building is more than a mere lifeless structure of bricks and concrete. It is a monument of gratitude, a symbol of the unfaltering devotion of the thousands of Visakhians who passed through the hallowed portals of this esteemed school. It is an attestation to their indomitable spirit, a standing monument of the resilience and dedication shown by Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association in the service of their beloved alma mater.
I'm very excited about coming to the new classroom. I'm expecting lots of more space and a new creativity from it. I've seen it being built over the years and I'm very excited about coming into it.
It is their gift of love and hope for the future. Let this stand for eternity and behold generations of younger Visakhians in their quest for wisdom. For by wisdom is one cleansed. Panyaya parisujjati
A leader possesses the capacity to translate vision into reality. It is with great respect that I invite our chief guest, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, Mrs. Sandamali Aviruppala.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear Visakhians. I feel privileged and honored to participate in this memorable event as a former principal of this prestigious institution of learning, and also as the immediate past president of Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association. The addition of this impressive building to the existing school complex fulfills an essential need for the smooth and efficient performance of Visakha Vidyalaya. As it was already highlighted, the grades 3 and 4 of the school will be housed in this building, enabling the primary section to function more effectively. Overcoming of the inconvenience caused due to scattered classrooms will definitely have a positive effect on the academics as well as the administration of the school. As the person who initiated the process in 2014, I am grateful to the then members of the Executive Committee of VVOGA who promptly accepted the enormous challenge of constructing a building of this nature. It is still fresh in my mind the manner in which the members of the construction project committee got round experts in the field for the initial designing and obtaining the necessary approvals for the building plans. Work of the initial stage up to the final approval of the building plan were fast-tracked as most of those involved architects, engineers, structural designers, quantity surveys, and local government officials were past Visakhians. While appreciating each and everyone's commitment and dedication towards the successful completion of this building project, I will be failing in my duties if I do not make a special mention of Mrs. Priyangani Ratnasekara, who was steering this project over the past few years. I must take this opportunity to sincerely thank all the donors, especially the past Visakhians who contributed very generously. The Building Construction Project Committee launched several fundraising events through the executive committees over the years to raise the necessary funds to find the total expenditure of 105 million. Although the initial plan was to hand over the building in 2017 to mark the Visakha Centenary celebrations, the project got delayed due to unavoidable circumstances and the adverse conditions prevailed in the country. But with the utmost dedication and commitment of the committee members today, we are able to accommodate our little Visakhians in this very impressive and versatile building. VVOGA had been a tower of strength to Visakha Vidyalaya over decades. During my long tenure at Visakha, I thoroughly enjoyed working closely with all executive committees and have very pleasant memories which I treasure. Similarly,
I am positive you all will continue to support the incumbent principal, Mrs. Manomi Seneviratna, to discharge her responsibilities diligently for the betterment of the school. In conclusion, let me thank all those who made this outstanding project a reality. I wish the Visakha Vidyalaya All Girls Association to have the strength and courage to serve the alma mater in all their future endeavors. May the blessings of Visakha Bosamidu be with the little Visakhians and with all of you. Thank you.
බොහොමත්ම ස්තුතියි අපේ හිටපු විදුහල්පති මෑණියනි ඔබේ වදන් එදා වගේම අදත් අපිට ශක්තියක්. දැන් අපි සූදානම් වෙන්නේ අපේ පුංචි විසාඛාවන්ගේ ප්‍රාසංගික අංගයකට යොමු වෙන්නට. මේ සොඳුරු ලෝකයක් තනන්නට වෙරදරන අපේම පුංචි විසාඛාවන්. අද විසාඛාවන් විදිහට අද අපි මොනතරම් මේ සියවස් සැමරුම් ගොඩනැගිල්ල ගැන කතා කරත් මේ ගොඩනැගිල්ලේ නියම අයිතිකාරයෙකුගේ හඬින් ඒ ගැන ඇහුවේ නැත්තම් මං හිතන්නේ ඒක අඩුපාඩුවක්. ඉතින් දැන් අපි සූදානම් වෙන්නේ පුංචි විසාඛාවකගේ හඬින්ම ඇගේ සතුට ගැන අහන්න. මේ ආරාධනය විසාඛා විද්‍යාලයේ ප්‍රාථමික අංශයේ ආරදී ඉත්වරා සූර්යාරච්චි අපේ පුංචි විසාඛාවට.
සුබ උදෑසනක් වේවා. අද දින මෙහි පැමිණ සිටින ආරාධිතා මුත්තා වන අපගේ හිටපු විදුහල්පතිතුමිය ගරු සඳමාලි අවිරුක්පොළ මැතිනිය හා අපගේ විදුහල්පති මෑණියන් වන ගරු මනෝමි සෙනෙවිරත්න මැතිනිය ඇතුළු ඔබ සියලු දෙනාගෙන්ම අවසරයි. පාසලම ලස්සනයි, අලුත් හැඩයක් මවයි. පුංචි අපේ ලෝකයයි, පන්ති කාමර ගොඩයි. අපිත් ආසයි යන්න, ඉඩක් නෑ අපි හැමට. ඒත් සතුටුයි මොකද මේක අපේ පාසලයි. බැම්මෙන් බැම්ම ඉදිවෙමින් ඉහළ නැග්ග ගොඩනැගිල්ල දුටු දවසේ සිට අපි හැමෝටම ආඩම්බරයි. මොකද විසාඛා විද්‍යාලයට තවත් ගොඩනැගිල්ලක්, අලුත් ගොඩනැගිල්ලක් අපිට. ඉතින් ගුරු මෑණිවරුනි, පියවරුනි, ඔබ සැම නොදන්නවා වුණාට අපි හැමෝම මේ ගොඩනැගිල්ල ඉදිවනතුරු නොයිවසිල්ලෙන් තමයි බලාගෙන හිටියේ අලුත් පන්ති කාමරවලට යන්න. මගේ පුංචි නංගිලා සැමත් සතුටෙන් බලාගෙන හිටියේ අලුත් පන්ති කාමරවලට යන්න. ඒත් කොරෝනා වසංගතය ඉන්ධන ගැටලු හේතුවෙන් බොහෝ කාලයක් පාසල වසා තිබුණා. ඉතින් කාලෙකට පස්සේ පාසල් විවෘත වුණා. දන්නෙම නෑ පාසලේ ලස්සන ගොඩනැගිල්ල ඉදි වෙලා. ඉහළට ඉදිවුණු ගොඩනැගිල්ල දැකලා අපි හැමෝම සතුටු වුණා. අද ලස්සන දවසක්. ඒ ගොඩනැගිල්ල අපට තිලින වූ දවස. ඉතින් ආදරණීය නැගණියනි, මේක අපේ පාසලේ තවත් එක් සම්පතක්. මෙය ආදරයෙන් සුරක්ෂිතව තබා ගැනීම පුංචි අපේ වගකීමක්, යුතුයකමක්. ඉතින් මේ අපට දායාද කළ ආදි ශිෂ්‍ය සංගමයේ සියලුම දෙනාට වචන වලින් කියන්න, ගොනු කරන්න බැරි තරම් ස්තුතියක් මේ වෙලාවේ පුංචි මම පුද කරන්නම්. පාසලේ ප්‍රාථමික අංශයේ නංගිලා සැම වෙනුවෙන් 3-4 ශ්‍රේණිවලදී පුංචි අපි විසිරිලා තන තන හිටියා මට මතකයි. ඉතින් මේ විදියට අලුත් ගොඩනැගිල්ලක එකම තැනකට ගන්න අදහස මුල පිරුව අපගේ හිටපු විදුහල්පති මෑණියන් වන සඳමාලි අවිරුක්පොළ මැතිනියන්වත් ඒ අදහස අනුව ඉදිවුණු ගොඩනැගිල්ල පුංචි අපට ඉක්මනින්ම දායාද කරන්න මේ දක්වාම අසීමිතව උත්සාහගත් අපගේ වර්තමාන විදුහල්පති මෑණියන්වත් පුංචි අපට අමතක කරන්න බෑ. ඔබ දෙපළ අප වෙනුවෙන් මේ ලබා දීමට කටයුතු කළ තිලිනය හරිම අපූරුයි. ඉතින් ආදි ශිෂ්‍ය සංගමයේ සියලුම දෙනාට නැවතත් ස්තුතියි. අපේ පාසලට මේ ලබා දුන් අමිල සම්පතට. ඉතින් සතුට පොදි වැඳගත් අසීමිත ස්තුතියක් සමග මාගේ කතාව අවසන් කරන්නම්. ඔබ සැමට විසාඛා බෝ සමිඳු පිහිටයි.
Now, I cordially invite the project chairperson of this outstanding endeavour, Mrs. Priyangani Ratnasekara, to deliver her speech.
Guest of today's occasion, Mrs. Sandamali Avipula, Madam Principal, former principals, deputy principals, teachers present and past, old girls, committee members, past Visakhians, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the speech that I prepared has been all told by the documentary and the previous speakers. So let me just recap the background of this, as it all began in 2014, and then various committees, executive committees from 2014, they worked very hard towards this achievement. But we started off actually in 2014, then in 2015, 16, 17 was the centenary year. But as the previous speaker said, there were setbacks. The main setback was it was delayed by 2 years because of the memorial library building. So thereafter we faced the country's Easter bomb attack and then the COVID-19 pandemic. So those were challenges to us. As a result of this delay, we had to spend much more than the budgeted amount. So that was a Herculean task of filling that gap. But thanks to all the local and overseas Olgas with their generosity, and then the centenary celebrations, which was said in the documentary, we managed to collect the necessary funds. As Mrs. Avirupula said, we stand at rupees 105 million, which is about 60 million more. So this is due to the price escalations, and then of course, we have added many modern facilities which were not in the previous BOQ. So all that amounted to this 105 million really. So I'm very happy to say that we have given a magnanimous, it was a magnanimous task on the past Olgas and the present Olgas executive committees, and also the generosity of the donors. I cannot thank them individually, but I thank all of them very much. Then it was, you know, the basic facilities we anyway were providing, but we realized that we have to give a few more add-ons, such as, you know, the toilet facilities are excellent. They're like, now when you go on a tour, you will see they're like in a 5-star hotel. And then the main hallways, each classroom has 4 fans. Actually, I was really wanting to put only 2 fans, but there is a circular here that it has to have 4 fans as per our square area. So also we didn't want to do tiling of the classrooms, but later on the executive committee decided, no, we should tile the classrooms. So those facilities actually added on, and we stand at 105 million. But it is actually a formidable task that has been met by the sheer determination and the dedication of the past executive committees, and I should speak very much about the Centenary Primary Building Committee. They were very enthusiastic, very supportive of, otherwise I as the chairperson would not have achieved anything. It was a collective commitment, I should say that. Also, I should remember the 2 remarkable women who actually cannot be forgotten at all. That is the Visakha Upasikawa, the namesake of our school, and Mrs. Jeremias Dias, the philanthropist who started this school. Also, there is yet another lady I should remember, Miss Savitri Nagodavitana. She was always a tower of strength, and in this committee, she played a very pivotal role until her untimely death in 2018. I am failing in my duty if I not thank a few people who gave their expertise and services. To begin with, it is the former principal, Mrs. Sandamali Avirupala. It was her initiative and her idea that we change from aesthetic studies building to grade 3 and 4 classrooms. So actually in the rush, when we changed the purpose, we had to redesign the entire building to suit the primary classes. So that also took actually time. And because, you know, the redesigning, the structural engineering part, then the quantity surveying part, then we had to put the plans again to the CMC like that. It took time. So this is why we have taken quite a while to finish this building. Then it is Vasantha Ratnayaka and Kumudini Jayawardena. They were the structural engineers behind this project. Of that, Kumudini played the role of project manager. I have a special thank you for her commitment, not only as the project manager, but as an old Visakhian, a loyal old Visakhian. Thank you very much. Then it is the consultant architect, Mr. Senadira Balasurya. His wife apparently is also an old Visakhian. So that was also a very good reason for him to give us a very good supportive initiative. It is then Mr. D.G. Jayaratna and Kumari Vijayakon of Cost Consultancy Private Limited for rendering their quantity surveying services. At any time, I could call Mr. Jayaratna for his valuable advice, and he was ready to do it for me. Thank you very much, Mr. Jayaratna. It is Ms. Swarna Chandra who was our project QS. She was a very, very dedicated, and she, I think, did a very good job in the measurement and payment. Thank you. All the other professionals who rendered plumbing and electrical services as well. Then I should thank the contractor, Ceylon Engineering Services Limited, comprising Mr. Ranjan, Kavinder, Mahinder, and the team. Thank you very much. We may have had hiccups here and there. That's the usual thing. But all in all, you all did a wonderful job. Thank you very much. So I thank all the others, too, who helped to achieve this lifetime dream of VVOGA, which is standing right in front of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Priyangani Ratnasekara. It is now time to present the tokens of appreciation. I cordially invite Madam Principal, Mrs. Manomi Senaviratna, accompanied by Mrs. Visakha Samaravira, the Joint Secretary of the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association, to present the tokens of appreciation. Mrs. Priyangani Ratnasekara, Project Chairperson. Mrs. Arosha Hemali, Project Secretary. Mrs. Ruvini Kirivandala, Project Treasurer. Mrs. Avanti Vikramasinghe, who served as an engineer in the Visakha Centenary Primary Building Committee. Mr. Vasantha Ratnayaka, Consultant Senior Structural Engineer. Mr. Vasantha Ratnayaka is currently out of the country. His contribution is greatly appreciated. Dr. Kumudini Jayawardena, Consultant Structural Engineer and Project Manager. Dr. Kumudini Jayawardena was unable to join us for today's event. Mr. BMW Senadira, Consultant Architect. Mr. BMW Senadira is currently out of the country and his contribution is greatly appreciated. Mr. D.G. Jayaratna, Consultant Quantity Surveyor. Thank you, Madam. Before we conclude today's ceremony, I cordially invite the Joint Secretary of the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association, Mrs. Sarangi Pereira, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Our chief guest, Mrs. Sandamali Avirupala, former principal of Visakha Vidyalaya, the present principal, Mrs. Manomi Seneviratna, past principals, deputy principals, deputy past principals, assistant principals, sectional heads and teachers, Centenary Primary Building Committee, generous donors, members of the School Development Society, members of Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association, and distinguished invitees. Today is undoubtedly one of the most memorable days for the primary section of our school, as well as the Visakha Vidyalaya Old Girls Association. Before we conclude the opening ceremony, I take this opportunity to pay gratitude to many who contributed to make this a reality. Firstly, I would like to thank our chief guest, Mrs. Sandamali Avirupala, for accepting our invitation to grace this occasion despite her busy schedule. Thank you, Mrs. Manomi Seneviratna, principal of our school, for your support, guidance, and encouragement given to the Old Girls Association of Visakha Vidyalaya. I extend my gratitude to deputy principals and assistant principals in our school. Our gratitude also goes out to all the donors for their generous contributions over the years to make this project a success. Our association extend their heartfelt gratitude to the Visakha Centenary Primary Building Committee, who worked tirelessly for many years, overcoming many obstacles that came their way. Project Chairperson, Mrs. Priyangani Ratnasekara, Mrs. Priyangani Ratnasekara, thank you for your commitment. Project Secretary, Mrs. Arosha Hemali, Mrs. Ruviri Kilivandala, Project Treasurer, Mrs. Avanti Vikramasinghe, Engineer, Mr. Vasanta Ratnayaka, Consultant Senior Structural Engineer, Dr. Kumudini Jayawardena, Consultant Structural Engineer, Mr. BMW Senadira, Consultant Architect, and Mr. D.G. Jayaratna, Consultant Quantity Surveyor. We salute you for a job well done. I thank previous office bearers and the committee members of the executive committees from 2014 onwards for taking the challenge to raise the necessary funds for this project. It was a formidable task, but the spirit of Visakha prevailed, and we were able to meet our targets. A big thank you goes out to the opening ceremony organizing committee, Mrs. Shanta Gunaratna, Mrs. Darshan Ilavathura Bandara, Mrs. Sujini Gomez, Mrs. Kaushalya Mendes, for their hard work to make this a grand occasion. Thank you, members of the executive committee, for assisting in organizing this event. I will fail in my duties if I do not thank the primary Western band, butterflies, dancers, traditional drummers for their performance, and Aradi for her speech, and also the teachers who trained them. Last but not least, the laborers, minor staff, and everyone who contributed in numerous ways to complete the Visakha Centenary Primary Building. It has been a lovely day to be able to conclude successfully. Thank you all for being with us today to share our pride and glory. Have a pleasant day.
Thank you, Mrs. Sarangi Pereira. අනේක විද බාධා කම් කටළු මැද ආදි විසාඛාවන්ගේ අප්‍රතිහත ධෛර්යයෙන් හා කැපවීමෙන් නිමවුණු විසාඛා සියවස් සමරු ප්‍රාථමික ගොඩනැගිල්ල අද සිට ඔබට බාරයි. ආදරණීය විසාඛාවනි, හෙට ලොව දිනන්නට පෙරමන් තරණ ඔබට මේ ගොඩනැගිල්ල සෙවණක් ශක්තියක්ම වේවා. ආදි විසාඛාවන් වන අපගේ පැතුම එයමයි. එසේනම් උත්සවයේ වැඩ කටයුතු නිමා කරමින් නැගී සිටමු ගයන්නට දිනෝදේශයේ අභිමානය ජාතික ගීය.
Shri Lanka Mata, Apa Shri Lanka, Namo, 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 Namo Mata. Sundara Siri Barini, Surandi Ati Sobhamana Lanka. Nanya Danaya Kamal Palaturu Pirichaya Bhumiya Ramya. Apahata Sapa Siri Sata Sadhana, Jivanaye Mata. Piriganu Mela Apa Bhakti Puja, Namo Namo Mata. Apa Shri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata. Ubave Apa Vidya, Ubamaya Apa Satya, Ubave Apa Shakti, Apa Hada Tula Bhakti. Upa apa aloke, apage anuprane, upa apa jivayave, apa muktiya ubave, nava jivana demine, nitina apa pumudu karan mata. නානගීර වඩවමි නැරගෙන යනු මැන ජය භූමි කරා. එක මවකගේ දරු කැල බැවිනා. යමු යමු වී නොපමා. ප්‍රේම වඩා සැම බේද දුරලද. නමෝ නමෝ මාතා. අප ශ්‍රී